Welcome back for a book review. Today we are talking about this one. This is a classic. A lot of people have already read this. I've owned it for years. I finally decided to actually read it. So this is Percy Jackson and the Olympians, the Lightning Thief. This is book 1 in the series by Riordan. I forgot to mention that. So this book I bought because everyone on BookTube eons ago was talking about this series, and I was like, alright, I'll buy it. And then I haven't read it in like 10 years. So now I'm finally actually reading the book. Now, the thing is, this book is written for a younger audience, and I'm not younger. And I'm like, okay, thing is, if you love this book, I am so glad you love this book. I am not taking away your love of this book. I don't know that it's for me. I hated it for the first like 3/4 of the book, and then it was kind of like, oh, maybe it like doesn't suck. Personal choices. Fiction is a hit or miss with people. So if you love this, I'm not attacking you. You can love things and I cannot love things. We're okay. Got it? Great. Because reading the comments and arguments on Goodreads over this book when people don't love it, y'all need to calm down. Like I kind of mentioned, it wasn't until 3/4 of the way through this book that I was actually kind of like, oh, maybe it like doesn't suck. Like, I really didn't like it. I really hated Percy. I really was hoping that he was gonna die. And like, like somebody in one of the reviews had talked about how it feels like a Harry Potter knockoff, and like the author kind of admitted that he did that. And it does definitely have that vibe. You can totally tell that like certain characters are definitely like written in a very like itty bitty little box that kind of mirrors in a lot of ways Harry Potter, and like just the world building of it. Like, I don't know, I was kind of offended for most of the book, to be honest, for a variety of reasons. So it's not too spoilery, I don't think, but they definitely put like disabilities as like a reason for why he's acting the way he is, and like, oh well, it's just because he's a half-blood. And it's like the way he presents like dyslexia, oh, it's magically cured because he can just read ancient Greece. And I'm like, that's still what? Like, that kind of is not all the okay. And then his ADHD is just that he's impulsive, and I'm like, so are you telling me you're neurotypical trying to write like you have a disability that's like ADHD? Because like, that's what it feels like. Living with somebody who has ADHD, and as somebody who's been diagnosed with CPTSD, and honestly I think should be ADHD, but if you say you've heard about it from TikTok, they just stop talking to you. And they're like, nope, it's this other one. But like, whatever. There's a lot of overlap between the two regardless. But hubby definitely has the diagnosis. There is so much more to ADHD than just what's presented in here. It's like, I don't think you know what this actually means. And I know it's a weird hill to die on, but like, it is annoying and a little offensive, because it's like, really? That's what we're just gonna, okay, sure, that's all it is. And then it's just pushed off as like, well, it's because they're a half god. And I'm like, I don't love that for this book. Stop it. And also his attitude the entire time, I really just wanted him to die because he's so annoying. And like, I know he's supposed to be a 12-year-old boy, and like sometimes they can be really obnoxious, but like also, no. I hated him, and it's really hard to read a book when you hate the main character. That makes it really rough. And there was no side supporting character for like, again, 3/4 of the book that even remotely made me want to continue. There was a character at the end that made me want to continue, and that's it. The other characters in here, without getting into spoilers, are so stereotypical that I cannot even. There's no depth. Didn't like it. Also, as a pagan, I don't like how he's presenting the gods. And like, I know that's like a very small minority of like overlap, but like, dude, like the way he writes the gods is so kind of offensive. And like, it's just awful, and I hated it. And I'm like, I feel like I need to like go give an offering to some of these gods to be like, I'm so sorry you're presented in this way in a modern text, because my god, it's bad. Like, there is like no respect for the gods. I get it that to the author, they're just a myth, they're just a story that existed thousands of years ago, but for other people, like, they're not. They're actually still here. They're still honored. And it really bothered me quite a bit. And also the like weirdness of having it be in New York and that you take modern technology to get there to like go to Olympus. It was weird. And like I didn't love like I was ready to hate this book and like really shakily be like, this is like a 1 to 2 for me. It migrated up to a 3 because of the end. It is a little bit of a spoiler, so like we'll talk about that in a second. It did make me get like questioning and like I want to see what happens more, but like it's a hesitant. Like I'm reading a book in between because I'm like, I don't know, dude. I don't know. It at least moved me to like, I don't know, I guess we could see what happens. But most of the book I was like, I just want to DNF this. I'm just not the intended audience at all. So it's really hard to like, also just like, I'm kind of over books on being in school and being a teenager and like being the chosen one. Like it's just been so overdone. And like, I'm ready for adult stories now. Not like adult and like spicy content, but like jobs, working, responsibilities, being in charge of yourself and not having to be like, oh, well, I gotta ask my parent, then I got teachers. Like, no, you can quit your job, you can do whatever you want, you can leave the country if you wanted to. Like, those are the characters I want to learn about more than teenagers and children, because like, I just don't relate anymore, really. So that said, again, I got to like 3/4 through the book, and then I'm tempted to continue, but it is a spoiler, so without further ado, read at your own risk with that in mind. I don't know that I would recommend it unless you're prepared for those things, and then, yeah, let's talk about spoilers. So the scene that really actually changed this book for me is when Hades came into the picture, because up until this point, I hated this book. I really hated it. Grover is so obnoxious, and like, he is so obviously a Ron knockoff. And not even like Ron when he starts to get a backbone. It just like Ron, like book 1, where he's like very timid and awkward and like he tries to help Harry, but like Harry's mostly taking care of him. Like it was Ron. And it's like, I expected him to have red hair and freckles. It was so obvious. And I hated Percy. He's annoying. His attitude towards everything is like somehow like the arrogant victim. And I hated it. And I hated how ADHD was presented as just impulsiveness. And that's it. And I'm like, it is so much more. All of these things that happened to him, if he actually had ADHD, the rejection sensitivity would kick in so much more than it's written. And like, me and my husband were talking about it, and he's like, the author has to be neurotypical. Like, that's the only thing. Because, like, damn. Like, it's not. No person with ADHD is actually like that. Really. And hubby was a 12-year-old boy with ADHD at one point. So, like, he also knows that it's like, what are you talking about? No, like, there's so much more that's going on than just that. Same with dyslexia, where it's just convenient for the plot. And like, the plot was so convenient. I know it's a kid's book, so I tried to keep that in mind, but it was like, oh my god, really? Oh my god, okay. The Chosen One can magically like kill these really big baddies. Super easy and quick in the book. Okay, alright, sure. And again, as an adult looking at it, I'm like, you are a literal child. How are you able to take on these big monsters? How are you able to outwit adult gods that are thousands of years old and have been messing with humans for thousands of years? You're the special one. Okay. I didn't love it. And and the way he talked about the gods and interacted with them just constantly kept ripping me out of the book and just making me offended on behalf of the gods. Like, Dionysus, why the hell is he not able to make wine, and why is he like on probation or whatever, having to babysit children? Like, what? And like, the kids having to hold up their like morals of their parents and like their grudges. It's like, you've never even met the gods half the time, so like, sure, that makes sense. And then of course he's one of the top 3 gods' children, and it's like, okay, Chosen One complex. And like, then how like Medusa basically felt like the witch from Hansel and Gretel to a T. And it's like, how did you outwit Medusa? That doesn't even make sense. And like, then I think it was supposed to be like the Fates or something that he kept interacting with, and then we have like the Oracle that like, all I could think of was like the Granny character from SpongeBob. Like the little like decrepit, like little shriveled up thing. That's all I pictured for that the entire time. But like, the only character that actually made me like, alright, I guess I could see what happens is Hades. And like, I love Hades. I was really ticked that he was gonna be the baddie. And like, he's a cool dude. He's a great god. I like him. And so, like, I wanted to see what happens with him. And, like, he keeps up his end of the bargain. He lets the mom go. And, like, I love how he's, like, sarcastic, but, like, not. And it's just, like, I don't want war. I have enough to deal with right now. And, like, that's 100% how a god of death would respond. Because, like, they got a lot to deal with as is. And, like, he definitely got the short end of the stick when it came to picking their roles in society. And, like, Zeus being a dick, I mean, it's on point, I suppose, but it is kind of obnoxious. And, like, Poseidon, like, basically wearing, like, a Hawaiian shirt and, like, capri shorts or whatever, and, like, just sitting there in, like, flip-flops just feels really weird. And, like, I don't know that the god of the sea is gonna be, like, a hippie sitting on the beach. Like, most of the time the sea gods are very intense because anybody who actually has been on the sea and, like, is running a boat, not on a cruise ship where you're sipping on your margaritas. Like, the dudes keeping you from hitting icebergs and making sure the engines work the way they're supposed to and watching for crap in the water and not hitting into other things, you know? Like, people who are battling the element of the ocean and, like, when there's a storm and stuff, like, those dudes know that the ocean is not to be messed with. And, like, I feel like the god of that would not be wearing shorts and a, like, flowery shirt. So, like, I don't know, it was weird. And, like, of course he's the chosen son, and, like, of course the son actually, or the god actually loves his mom. And it's like, oh my god. And apparently he's written the Magnus Chase character the, like, exact same way as Percy. Like, same personality. And I'm like, oh my god. And, like, that's the one my husband read, and he hated that book, so I really doubt I'm going to read it. I'm just curious to see what happens. I don't even know if I want to finish this series. You can see where it's going, and it's like, I don't care. It's Voldemort coming back slowly, and he's building an army from wherever he's at. Oh my god. Like, it is definitely Harry Potter. It just has, like, a Greek myth on top of it. And, like, the end where he's like, well, I'm gonna go home for the year, and I'll be back in the summer. And it's Harry Potter, how it ends, where every year they're like, oh my god, I gotta go home for summer. I'll see you at the start of the school year. It was definitely a Harry Potter knockoff. And so, I don't know. It's just one of those where it's like, it's not bad. And I know that as a kid, I probably would have liked this more. But as an adult and as a pagan, it was, and like as a witch, people who work with the old gods and we worship them still, I am a little offended, to be honest. I don't think a 12-year-old kid is gonna outwit the gods. And I don't know that there's a lot of books that would write that kind of way for a lot of other religions either. Like, if you were able to outwit the Christian god and he's the baddie. Don't see that happening, you know? And like, I don't know. I hated this for most of the time, and then by the end I was like, I don't know, Hades doesn't suck. I kind of want to see what happens with him, but that's about it. Like, if Percy dies, that would be great. He's the main character, so he's not, but like, it would be great. The rest of the book would be awesome. And like, the characters were so cliche too. Like, the bullies are just a bully. That's it. And like, you can have a children's book where your characters have depth. Especially this type of children's book. We're getting into character development options and, you know, having a little bit of fleshed out characters, and they're just not. So anyways, I was ready to say that I hated this book, and now I'm like, I don't know. I mean, it's not good, but it's probably not bad either. I don't know. So I'll definitely read book 2 at some point and see how it goes, but for now, we're sitting at a solid meh for this. I would love to hear your thoughts on this one in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe. I talk about my writing adventures and the books that I am reading here Monday through Friday. And until next time, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see y'all soon.